Yes then, EFD family, me and Pato are back, baby, to summarise the January transfer window. And what a window it's been.
Has it though?
Matt!
And let's get straight into our winners and losers. Don't ever touch me. It's in my contract. Don't ever, stop it. Okay, so my winners of the transfer window, I want to talk about Dortmund. I want to talk about Lyon, mate. Okay, Dortmund first. They brought in £10 million, 17-year-old Alexander Isak from the Swedish league.
The next Zlatan.
Well, yeah, that's a lot of money to pay for a kid, even if you think he is going to be the next Zlatan. But as we know with Dortmund, they do incredible work in recruitment, and when they think a youngster's good, they tend to be good. As we know, they need to back up that striker position. They've struggled for somebody who can step into the breach when Aubameyang is injured.
Schürrle's not really done the business, has he?
Exactly.
One in his last 7, maybe?
Yeah, and I think they prefer him in that wide spot as well. So Isak looks like a very good prospect for the future, especially as Aubameyang in the last couple of days has once again talked about leaving Dortmund in the summer.
Can I have a day off?
Yeah, shut the up, mate. Anyway, Lyon. Lyon signed Memphis Depay for about £13 million. Now, there is a buyback clause in the deal, but people seem to assume that means that he'd definitely go. After the way United have treated him, I wouldn't be surprised if they came back in and he said no. Also, there's an agreement which means that they get a substantial increase on what they paid in the first place. And the potential upside here is huge. One phenomenal player in Ligue 1 can take you to the title. And so if Memphis Depay shows the kind of promise he had when he was at PSV, then I think that Lyon could be looking at title challenges over the next couple of years. So, great news.
I'd probably go for Sevilla, mate. They got Jovetic, they got their man, and he's been involved in 4 goals in his first 4 games. Obviously a loan with an obligation to buy, I believe, at the end of the season for around 12 to 14 million euros. That is an absolute steal. Monchi looks to have secured them another banging transfer before he leaves for the Eternal City. Monchi is obviously Sevilla's head scout, head of recruitment. He's going to Roma at the end of the season, much to Roma's fans' delight. And I'll probably go for Napoli.
Really?
They needed a backup option, didn't they, for Milic? And they've gone in big for Pavoletti. Now, he was injured at the start of the season. Not sure. I'm not watching him an awful lot, but they needed someone. We've discussed him a lot on the show, haven't we? And we've said, not convinced Milic is going to fill that void left by Higuain. So they need to maybe get 2 players in that can do that, and they look to have secured it.
Well, yeah, they've let one striker go who we're going to talk about in a little bit. But first, Patrick van Aanholt, obviously a very athletic left back. He's very quick. He's good at getting forward. This season, in 20 starts for Sunderland, he's got 3 goals and an assist, which is nothing to be sneezed at for a defensive player. Now, he's actually the top scoring defender in the Premier League since the beginning of last season. So this is a habit. He likes to get forward. And, of course, he's worked under Sam Allardyce before when he took over at Sunderland last season. Now, as I said, Sunderland did get good money for him, and he's going into a reasonably solid defensive unit at Palace. They have a better goal difference than Watford, who are all the way up in 14th, and a much better goal difference than Swansea, who are currently above them as well. They make plenty of tackles a game, around 18, and Van Aanholt will slot right into that. Let me talk you through his numbers. 1.7 tackles a game, 2 interceptions, 2.3 clearances, and 1.4 key passes.
Now, that is a massive upgrade on Martin Kelly, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. That's a huge number of key passes for a fullback. Like, these are really, really impressive numbers. And he makes 33 passes a game. Now, I realise that this is a little bit woolly. Some teams play possession and some teams don't. But what that shows you is that he is involved in play. You can give him the ball and he will complete passes. So I think that he's going to be a good signing for them. I think Big Sam knows what he's getting. And Van Aanholt is also 25, right in his prime years.
Who will go down? Crystal Palace or Sunderland? Let us know in the comments, EPL fans. One transfer I thought was very interesting that occurred in Serie A, Pato, was Gagliardini to Inter Milan. Now, he's gone from Atalanta on loan until 2018, where there's then an obligation to buy for 25 million euros. Weird business, but that's Italian football for you. Now, the 22-year-old, this does represent somewhat of a gamble. He's only made, prior to the move, he only made 14 appearances in the Serie A, having plied most of his trade in Serie B with the likes of Cesena, Spezia. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on now. In his last 3 games he has played for Inter Milan, he looks to have solidified the team no end. He's averaging 4 tackles and 4 interceptions, which, if he keeps those numbers up throughout the season, is quite frankly insane. He also looks to be the perfect foil for the likes of Kondogbia, the likes of Brozovic, who like to move forward a little bit, carry the ball, take the play to the other team. He's given a license to João Mario to get forward. He scored at the weekend. And I think it was important that Pioli nailed down a formation, wasn't it? Frank de Boer, he altered from 4-3-3 to 4-2-3-1, sometimes 4-3-2-1. Now Pioli looks to have settled with a 4-2-3-1. And to make that system work, he needed a second pivot. And Gagliardini looks to be that man. And now, after a crisis at the start of the season, they're 5 points off second.
And it's not bad work for Atalanta as well, because if they can get 25 million for him, it might allow them to hold on to Franck Kessié for a little bit longer, who, as we know, is a target for Chelsea, among others.
But probably not.
But probably going to run out.
He's going to summer.
Yeah. I want to stay in Italy with my next transfer. I'm talking about Manolo Gabbiadini, who's moved from Napoli to Southampton for around £14 million, which will rise with extras. Now, I love this transfer. He's a creative forward. He's a big guy as well. He's 25 years old, so he's right in his prime. And he can play in a 2 up front or on his own. Now, this season, he's got 5 goals in 19 appearances. So at first look, that doesn't seem that impressive, but then you realise he's actually only played under 700 minutes. 5 goals and 3 assists in 691 minutes.
Jesus.
That's very, very good indeed. But when you look at his goals per minute, he's getting a goal more than every 2 games, which is pretty much what you look for in a striker.
Yeah, he's never been prolific throughout his career, has he?
Well, he will be. I think he will be. Like, he's never had a significant run in the first team, and when he's played, he's scored consistently. When you look at numbers just at the end of the season, then it is really hard to get a sense of how good he actually is on the pitch. But this is a guy who shoots a lot. He shoots 4 times a game. This is really, really good. You want strikers who shoot a lot. And more importantly, 2.5 of his shots per game come from inside the box. So these are quality chances he's getting. To put that in perspective, that's better than Shane Long, and it's just under what Charlie Austin gets at Southampton. And so you imagine that when you slot Gabbiadini into that Southampton team, and he's the sole focus of the creative players, where obviously at Napoli there are plenty of targets, you think that maybe those numbers might even get better. So I think that they're getting a good player for their money.
2 more transfers that I think are hard to beat for their respective sides. A Schneiderlin from Manchester United to Everton for £22 million plus add-ons, and then Niang from AC Milan to Watford. It wasn't long ago he was actually linked with Arsenal, was it?
No, it wasn't.
So that is insane. Let's go back to Schneiderlin.
This is my favourite move of the window, I've got to admit.
PBS loves a bit of Schneider, mate. So he's only played 11 minutes in the league this season, the 27-year-old, which is farcical, but Mourinho has his reasons. But the guy could be the perfect foil for Idrissa Gueye, couldn't he? And Gueye in that 4-2-3-1 has been unreal this season, averaging 5 tackles a game, 2.3 interceptions and 3.3 long balls. Now, he's playing really well next to Gareth Barry in Coleman's 4-2-3-1, isn't he? But Gareth Barry is now 36. He's put in a very good innings, but he's not the future of that midfield, and Morgan Schneiderlin is. Now, those two could be just simpatico, couldn't they? Schneiderlin could dictate the tempo. He's got a good range of passing. In his last season at Southampton, he was averaging about an 88% pass rate from 55 to 60 passes a game. So this is a guy who likes to just fire out those passes nice and quickly, while the Senegalese can continue to destroy. I just think they could be so good together, Pio. What about you, mate?
Well, yeah, I think that Schneiderlin is actually a really versatile player. I think he's a reasonably cultured guy. Like, I seem to remember him putting Yaya Toure at his peak on his arse with a little sombrero. And he can also work as a defensive midfielder. You know, we saw him pair with Wanyama so well at Southampton. But 3.7 tackles a game and 2.7 interceptions for Schneiderlin in that final season at Southampton shows that he can do basically any role in that midfield. I'm really excited about it, except that I think that Everton are going to be really, really hard to play now.
Yeah, definitely. One thing Watford fans should be excited about is Niang arriving from AC Milan. As I said, he's only 22 and he's actually started this season 13 times in that 4-3-3. So he's been playing. This is a really good capture. Now he's got 3 goals and 2 assists this season. He can play on the left or the right in that 4-3-3. So he's got a certain amount of flexibility, which is good, because Walter Materazzi's side have played every formation under the sun this season, literally trying to solve that forward problem by tinkering with the formation. It's not quite worked yet, has it, Pato? Because, Troy Deeney's still their top goal scorer, and he's only got 5 goals. So hopefully he can help them out on the flanks, maybe providing the big man a bit of service. Maybe he'll find a bit of form that he had last season. Now, Niang is averaging 2 take-ons, 2 shots one cross and one key pass a game. Unexceptional, but solid for a 22-year-old, I'd say. Especially in Serie A, where the defences are a bit more compact. There's definitely less room to operate in those wide areas because of all the low blocks and the medium blocks. Keywords, buzzwords. But he's probably been let go because of the capture of Deulofeu, which I think is very smart business, very savvy business from AC Milan. Could have easily made my list because when he's on song, as we saw in that final season, under Martinez, I believe, with Lukaku, they were incredible together. And the guy was posting huge numbers and spending relatively little time on the pitch. So hopefully he gets back to his best, Niang gets a good run in the team, and everyone benefits from this transfer.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we'll see how far Niang can take Watford and how far Schneiderlin can take Everton. To finish up this section, we've got a couple of misfit toys who've been chucked out of the pram. Jesse Rodriguez has gone to Las Palmas, which obviously is where he started his career, on loan from PSG. Now, he only managed 263 minutes in the 6 months since he moved to France, despite paying £21.5 million for his services. And last season, he was on fire in about 1,200 minutes in the league last season, 6 goals, 5 assists for Real Madrid. But what we're seeing there is kind of super club effect, possibly, you know? When you play for a team that's that dominant, that has that much talent, maybe it isn't all that hard to succeed, but we certainly thought he'd be better than this. He's made just 1 start. He's made 9 League appearances. And anyway, he's off to Las Palmas, who will probably need him because Kevin Prince Boateng has been their top goal scorer this season. They have a goal difference of 0. They've slipped down to 11th. And when you look at the teams around them, all of them have reliable goal scorers.
Our second little diminutive striker who's been chucked on the scrap heap is Bojan by Stoke. But I think that's extremely good business from Mainz. Because when the kid has played, he's done well. I mean, he scored 3 goals in 5 starts for Stoke. He's only made 4 sub-appearances. I mean, Stoke is struggling for goals, full stop. Their top goal scorer is a 35-year-old Peter Crouch on 6.
Yeah.
So I'm not quite sure why they've let him go. I mean, they have signed Berahino, but we know that Bojan can play attacking midfield as well.
Yeah.
He could effectively play behind the Burundi-born striker. I mean, he's signed for £12 million. He's only played 4 times this season. Is he going to hit the ground running?
Who knows?
Since they had a terrible start of the season, Mark Hughes has reverted to a 4-2-3-1. And he's pushed Joe Allen on, hasn't he? He had that little scoring spree at the start of the season, Joe Allen. And he's actually been playing in the centre of that 3 in attacking midfield there for the furthest forward midfielder, with Glenn Whelan coming back in that defensive position. So that's effectively pushed Bojan out of the team. I'm not sure Hughes trusts him with the sort of the trials and tribulations of the Premier League. But this is a bad move for Stoke. Are they going to live to regret letting the diminutive little forward escape their clutches? Let us know in the comments below.
Oh shit! It's time for the transfer shocker. Soundtrack.
No, that's a drill, mate.
All right, whatever.
He's back again.
I'm talking about Watford. Shut your mouth. Watford sold Odion Ighalo this January for £20 million to some Chinese side. I don't care which one. But the bad thing about this was that they turned down £37.5 million for him last summer, also from a Chinese side. Again, doesn't matter. They're all owned by the state. Now, since then, he made 17 league appearances and scored 1 league goal. So essentially, they paid £1 million for each Premier League appearance he's made so far this season. They could have had so much money, and instead they've had just quite a lot of money for him. It's ridiculous,
Do you remember when Louis van Gaal bid 35 million for him?
I actually didn't. We had to stop shooting, and somebody had to Google it because I didn't believe Chris when he told me that. Ridiculous, mate.
Mental. To round the show off, Patrice, we're going to do a very Alan Partridge sounding section. January's hot topic.
Hot topic.
It's also a discount clothes store for Gribos in America, isn't it?
Yeah, for little emo girls like you.
Thank you. I didn't really hear that, but I assume it was something nice. And it's got to be Dimitri Payet, hasn't it? His transfer to Marseille from West Ham for the sum of £25 million. Let's just say it did not end amicably. Now, I read an article, as I mentioned earlier, by Adrian Durham that suggested that Dimitri Payet went to the club last summer and said he wasn't settling all that well in London.
I think he needs to be defended. I think he's been slandered repeatedly in what I think is quite an unprofessional way, but that's West Ham, an unprofessional club. I mean, David Sullivan is a stupid man, and Karen Brady's an idiot as well. Karen Brady, who I believe is the chairperson of West Ham, she said that he'd been kind of like functioning at half speed. He hadn't been at his best. You know, he wasn't producing on the pitch. This is a guy who got 2 goals and 6 assists in about 1,500 minutes this season. He's producing 4 key passes a game, which, by the way, leads the league. He's currently the most creative player in the league. Do you want that guy who's probably going to drop off a bit and then you'll get less money for him in the summer? Look, he wants to go to Marseille, and that's frustrating because it means you can't have a bidding war. He only wants to go to one place, so you can't really get anyone else in to bid them up. That's frustrating. But at the same time, this is one guy who has a dispute with his employers. The attitude here is always like, oh, he should love West Ham, he should love the club. Why? They're just a club who pays his money. They're a club who pays his wages. Like, they're somebody he works for, and he has a disagreement with his employers. It's weird how in this situation, everyone sides with the corporation. And I just think it's a disgrace the way they've talked about it. Oh, he's a snake or whatever. I completely agree that he shouldn't have refused to train. I completely agree that he should have been willing to play as long as that contract went. I completely understand that. That is fair enough. But at the same time, this is not out of disloyalty to West Ham that he's done this. It's out of loyalty to Marseille.
So just before we vacate the premises, Pato, because we're going to get pissed for our 1 million subs. Hey, here's your tip for moving this summer.
I think it's going to be Antoine Griezmann. It looks like he's already on his way. And as much as it pains me to say it, I think he's going to United, mate.
I mean, if he was to move, would this start a disastrous chain of events for Gooners? Would Sanchez go to Atletico? Would Costa go to Atletico?